Hello and welcome back to Lorehammer. I'm your host, Mark. Today we're doing Iron Warriors. It's going to be a great episode. Joining me today, we got the Iron Dwarf, Gerald. Hey, welcome.
Hello, I have taken part in my ultra bitter coffee today, and I'm ready to be filled with resentment.
Oh, yes. Yeah. What did we say that was steeped in that coffee? It was like coffee and salt, I think.
Coffee, salt, bitter tears, probably. So,
Perturabo's favorite drink. We also got Bro Diddley back. Welcome, buddy. How's it going?
I, the great and powerful Brody Lee.
Brody Lee. I don't like that.
No, I know, it's terrible. Everybody at work calls me Bro Diddley, Diddler, and I'm like, please don't call me Diddler.
No.
Don't do that.
Yeah, you don't want that one either.
Don't say that. And they're like, why? And I was like, think about it.
And before we get started, I would like to take this time to publicly relinquish my orc voice crown to you, Bro Diddley, for your stellar performance on last week's episode.
Well, thank you, my good sir.
Yeah.
Now that guy there speaks like a proper orc.
He speaks like a proper orc. He comes.
Hi, Borky.
What?
That's funny. They have nicknames for you in the chat and stuff now. That's so funny. Hi, Borky. Yeah, I got requests in the last couple weeks that we need to do an orc episode, the three of us. So that'll happen.
Oh, yeah. It'll be good.
Fantastic. Lorehammer has never had a bad orc episode.
No, that's almost impossible.
Exactly.
Well, before we get to the Iron Warriors episode, do a little quick housekeeping. Episode sponsor today is Merlin's Miniatures again. Use promo code Lorehammer. They do worldwide shipping. They have a bunch of items, like over 20,000 items. They do 15% off if you join their mailing list. And if you click on the link in the description below and you use the referral code, I get a little kickback too. So go buy some minis, because tonight we're talking Iron Warriors. And at the end of the episode, instead of messaging me, I went and bought Iron Warriors from Games Workshop. You do it from Merlin's Miniatures, and you use promo code Lorehammer. Pretty simple, pretty easy sales pitch, really. Ultimately, you're doing it anyways, so just do it there. But thank you to Merlin's Miniatures for sponsoring this episode, and yeah, if you want to do something similar, definitely shoot me a message.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. Always more opportunities to get more plastic crack. But speaking of monies, the Gothenburg Mark wants you to join the Imperial Tithe. So please join in the fight against the heretics. For just $2.50 per month, you get an ad-free versions on Spotify. And for $5 a month, you get to join the live stream. And now handing over to you, Bro Diddley.
Join the Patreon to access the live stream at any time. Live chat room during the show. Call-in guests at the end. And we love our call-in guests. There you go. That's all you need to know.
Okay, so we got like some type of voice-off happening here. What about this for a fun bonus episode? It's like some type of contest where we get everyone and you can all do voices. So it's like, all right, who's got the best Irish voice? Let's hear them. Let's hear all your voices. Lay them out, and we'll vote for the crown.
Diddly-dee potatoes.
What are you talking about potatoes here? That's fucking racist.
That's fucking racist.
I can do voices. See, people in the chat, they can do voices. Yeah, maybe that's a bonus episode. That's always fun. But today's episode, like I said, we're doing Iron Warrior. So let's get to that. I always like to make it to the main topic real quick, and then that's what we're here for. So it's kind of makes sense, really. Today we're talking about the fourth time now about the Iron Warriors. We did the 2 Primarch episodes, then we did the 30K Iron Warriors, and now we're doing Iron Warriors in 40K, the kind of Warband era when they've been broken down. And in this episode, we're going to be covering their kind of 10,000 year history. Not all of it, because that's a long fucking time. But a couple key things, such as the Long War, the Dispute of Iron, and the Grand Siege. And then we'll kind of carry on into more organizational things like, their leadership, what warbands look like, specialty ranks. Go talk about their home worlds, Well, maybe they only have one home world and they have one adopted world. And after that, we'll talk about some recruitment, including the big nasty that I won't name yet, to keep you on your toes waiting easily for a very special recruitment process. And we'll carry on to Gene Seed, Combat Doctrine, Belief, Appearance, and War Gear. So it's going to be cool. We're going to learn a lot. There's a lot in this episode, man, like that I just couldn't cram in. And one cool thing that I couldn't quite fit in, but I'll say right now, is they have a huge fleet. And I've always liked Space Marine ships. And just another fucking win for the Iron Warriors, where they got all these cool assets that I really like. And now they also have a really big fucking fleet. So I got a quote here. And this is more actually of a litany than a quote. So everyone's quoting it over and over and over. So maybe all of us need to read this litany together, actually.
There you go. Love it. We could do that. Can we time it right?
Yeah, with that's the question for sure. We'll fix it in post. All right, 3, 2, 1.
From
iron comes strength.
From
strength
cometh will. From will cometh faith. From faith cometh honor. From honor cometh iron. This is the unbreakable litany, and may it forever be so. Yeah, I think so. I think that was a massive fail on our part.
Well, yeah, that's pretty much the kind of nice little mantra. Every time they do anything, they just repeat that over and over. You know, they're in the shower. They repeat that as they kind of do every process. From iron comes strength. And everything they do, reloading their bolt gun, they're going to chant that at you.
I imagine them in the shower now, like, and like, from strength cometh will, from will cometh cleanliness.
We must face off against the forces of Nurgle. We are not those disgusting heathens. I like how the most atheistic Primarch and his legion have like this litany, this religious rite, so to speak. It's funny to me. So Seth, you had asked for in the chat, you had asked for a recap, and that's exactly what I'm going to give you. The Long War. The Iron Wars, which raged for millennia following the Horus Heresy, are a grim and unyielding chapter in the long war between forces of chaos and the Imperium. After the heresy, the Iron Warriors found themselves entrenched in a relentless struggle against the Imperium, marked by endless sieges and battles for control over the most fortified and strategic positions in the galaxy. The Legion's expertise in siege warfare, once a tool of the Imperium, was now turned against it, and the Iron Warriors became infamous for their cold, methodical approach to war. They would breach the most impregnable fortifications and turn entire worlds into desolate landscapes. Their planetary sieges dragging on for centuries, wearing down defenders through sheer attrition and the slow, systematic dismantling of their defenses. Throughout the 10,000 years since the heresy, the Iron Warriors have played a pivotal role in the wars between the forces of Chaos and the Imperium. While many other Chaos Space Marine legions have broken into factions or fragmented into smaller warbands, the Iron Warriors have remained a cohesive force, albeit one deeply scarred by the passage of time. Led by a collection of bitter and power-hungry lords, their warbands continue to seek vengeance upon the Imperium, not for glory or chaos, but for the cold, calculated desire to break the strength of the Emperor's realm. As the years passed, the Iron Warriors' thirst for destruction and their unyielding commitment to their methods have made them some of the most feared forces in the Eye of Terror. Their relentless campaigns have turned them into the experts of both warfare and suffering, determined to make the Imperium bleed one world at a time. And I like that this was brought up because another lore tuber at one point had mentioned the thing with the Iron Warriors is they're not a follower of a particular god. They're just on the traitor side because fuck you, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. I love that about them. I think they're my favorite Traitor Legion because they're like, no, I don't want your stupid warp stuff. I just want to give you the great big middle finger. But it's just like that is the ultimate traitor to me. They could have picked either side, but they just wanted to give their dad a big middle finger.
I love too, even when they like, you know, at the end of the Horus Heresy, you know, before the start of the Long War, they flee from Terra, and on the way out, they just, you know, leave traps here, leave little fortresses here, just as those little middle fingers to anyone who follows them. You know, it's just, they kind of have always done what they wanted to do, and they get away with it all the time. They set these crazy traps, and then they're pretty cool that way. The Long War is crazy too. Like we got 10,000 years of like history and happenings and all these crazy incidents and wars, and planets are lost and claimed and all this. But some of these guys have been around since the Horus Heresy. there's like a term called like the Long War veterans, where those are like the guys who are actually around since the heresy. It's kind of a crazy thought to think that they could be around that long, but more fuckery and whatnot.
I mean, like, no one bats an eye that Abaddon's been like the main Chaos Space Marine poster boy like this entire time, and yet he's a Long War veteran. So
yeah. It's just they just out there waging wars, doing some trenches, sieging fortresses. It's a good time for them.
And apparently, and I don't know the canonicity of this, is when they're not doing that stuff, they apparently play video games.
yeah, play with their minis. Yeah. Build model landscapes. Model trains, I'm sure, are big for them.
They are just us, but in the 40K universe.
However, despite their disciplined nature and strategic genius, the Iron Warriors have been forever marked by the isolation and bitterness that arose from their betrayal at the Siege of Terra. Over the long centuries, they have grown increasingly distant from their former comrades. Their hatred, not just for the Imperium, but for the other traitor legions as well. Yeah, that's not wrong. The Iron Warriors' pride in their siege mastery has led them to adopt a detached, almost mechanical view of war. The ideals of their Primarch, Perturabo, have become more pronounced. His belief in the need for suffering and sacrifice as part of a greater, unfeeling purpose has become the driving force behind their actions. Now, the Iron Warriors are less interested in conquest for conquest's sake and more focused on proving their superiority both in battle and in the manner in which they bring about the downfall of the Imperium. As the millennia stretch on, their warbands continue to wage an endless, bitter struggle, wearing down the Imperium with unceasing sieges and the slow, agonizing destruction of their enemies. I feel like if they weren't the Traitor Legion, this would be the Mechanicum's other favorite legion besides the Iron Hands.
Like, does the Dark Mechanicum have that same love relationship with them? Yeah. I know a lot of people were talking about in earlier episodes of this about instead of Chaos Undivided, they should align themselves with Vashtar as a chaos god, as the entity that kind of they should worship.
I think they're onto something with that, because when Vashtor came out, I was under the impression that he was the Iron Warriors new thing. Like that's what they were going to align themselves with, but they never really made that connection.
They make a lot of memes off of it though. Like you'll see the cutesy comics of Nurgle picking up a Death Guard, Slanesh picking up an Emperor's Children, and then the little Iron Warriors just left alone. And here comes Vashtor in a coat and a trench coat and a fedora, and he's just like, "That's okay. You're with me now." That sort of thing.
I was kind of saying maybe it aligns a little better with Malice. What do you think about that? Malice, Malal, where it's more just they like creating chaos now at this point. They like just destroying things. But maybe that's still a little too organized. Or what do you think about that idea?
I mean, I can see that.
Yeah, I don't think they want to create chaos though. They're too ordered for that most of the time. It feels like they're there to put up a resistance, and they will continue to do so in their most organized fashion, but they will use chaos as a guise for what they want to do in the long run, right? So I think that's more what they're about. They want to use the chaos people, or chaos space marines and chaos demons and stuff like that, as just a distraction to make themselves more prepared to put up a more staunch resistance. That's my feeling, at least with Iron Warriors.
Jack says, I feel like Malice would be good if they were rallying behind Purdy or Perturapo. He spelled it all funny. Putty Robert.
Wait till we get to the the Gilliman episode. We'll just pronounce it every single way we can.
Gorilla Boat Man. Man, yeah. Purdy Robert.
It's the only word I know how to say correctly, actually.
The Dispute of Iron was a brutal and bloody civil war that tore through the ranks of the Iron Warriors during the 600th to 730th year of M34. Originating on the demon world of Medingrad, the conflict began as a bitter internal strife among the Iron Warriors, fueled by ancient grudges, differing interpretations of Perturabo's doctrines, and the ever-present influence of chaos. As the war escalated, it quickly spread beyond Medringard's infernal landscape, infecting the Iron Warriors' domains across the galaxy. This widespread conflict saw the involvement of various Chaos Space Marine warbands, chaos cults, and even traitor Titan legions, all all swept into the maelstrom of battle as old alliances were tested and broken. What had been a civil war within the Iron Warriors evolved into a larger conflict that threatened to consume the Legion whole. The fighting was not without consequence, as the dispute of Iron gave birth to new sub-factions within the Iron Warriors. The Steel Brethren, a faction of hardened warriors, emerged from the conflict, their strength and unity forged in the crucible of civil war. On the other hand, some factions, such as the Shattered Tower, were utterly destroyed, their legacies erased from the history of the Legion. These sub-factions that survived the chaos would carry the scars of the conflict forward, their identities shaped by the brutal power struggles of the dispute. The war was marked by both tactical genius and unfathomable violence, with the Iron Warriors turning their siege-focused warfare against their own, attacking each other's fortresses with the same ruthless precision they would use on any other enemy. I think that is personally like all the sub factions and like all the different war bands that you get out of this era are some of my favorite Iron Warriors things. Like I love 30k Iron Warriors personally. I think if I was going to play Horus Heresy, that's the army I'm playing. Like they're just so cool. But I also think that all of the different war bands that you get that have all the different doctrines that Perturabo had, like one's just they're just grabbing at straws. They're like nobody can really fully comprehend all of his doctrines because we're nowhere near where he was intelligence level. So I'm just gonna pick this one thing and it's mine now. And like that's all they're doing. And I just love that it's like you're taking all of these ideas that are supposed to work in tandem with each other, and none of them are actually being used in tandem anymore.
Yeah, that's so funny. That's such it's like you can only throw uppercuts, but if you hit somebody with an uppercut, they done.
You're done, son.
Everything else, though,
Talk about a knockout. Yeah.
Yeah. Iron Warriors are, funnily enough, Iron Mike Tyson.
It'll be interesting to go through the legions to see when each legion kind of breaks and shatters. I'm pretty sure most of them do. There might be one that doesn't. Like maybe the Alpha Legion doesn't quite shatter into these war bands. But the Iron Warriors went 4,000 years before they kind of finally separated enough that they're no longer like this big monolith,
They're no longer a true legion yet.
I think the only one that lasted like near as long, if I remember reading correct, was the Death Guard. Because in Talon of Horus, they make a big deal of like the Legion Wars, as Chaos calls it, and they're trying to reforge the Sons of Horus into the Black Legion, and they talk about like basically bringing in all the other war bands to heal, and like Morty, Magnus, and Perturabo were like the holdouts that kind of held on the longest.
Yeah, okay, Morty, Magnus, and Perturabo. Yeah, that makes sense. Sure, yeah.
All right. The sudden and mysterious end of the Dispute of Iron only deepened the intrigue surrounding the conflict. While many speculated that the war had been orchestrated by Perturabo himself, others believed it was the will of the Demon Primarch to purge the weak from the Iron Warriors' ranks. Whether by design or by fate, the conflict's abrupt conclusion left some factions strengthened and others shattered, further deepening the Legion's division. Some believe the dispute served as a test of loyalty and strength, with Perturabo's ever-watchful eye overseeing the bloodshed. What is certain is that the Dispute of Iron reshaped the Iron Warriors' future, with its legacy living on in the sub-factions that emerged, their power forever cemented in the annals of the Long War.
Another form of like decimation, possibly, where like Perturabo, you just think he made that move where he's purging his own legion.
The thing that I kind of like thought about when I was reading that earlier today was there's like a chapter in the Siege of Terra where it's Perturabo taking in all this data, and he's like hooked up to this chair and he's taking in all this data, trying to like figure out where people are, where everything's happening, and everything like that. I just imagine him ensconced in this like intelligence chair, just like sitting back, and he's looking through all of the eye lenses of all of the Iron Warriors. Like he has access to that still, and like he
That's
can
sweet.
just like he's seeing what they're all doing, and he's like, and then like he like messes with somebody's system so that they're they like kind of like they're motorized like for their armor is like slightly lagged, and then they die. And then, like all of a sudden, like I just imagine him being like, I don't like you. I don't like you.
Adios.
Just like
That's so crazy. Yeah, like I've made the claim before in the last couple episodes. I think Portarabo would have made a good war master. Like he was meticulous. He was a good general. Like he had a win rate of like perfect. Like every war he eventually won. Eventually, maybe he needed a little more guidance from the Emperor, but on the actual like military tactical side of it, he had that down.
Yeah,
yeah,
like
I agree.
guidance and maybe just a little bit of recognition, just like a little tap on the shoulders. It's like, I'm proud of you, son. Like that's all he needed to hear.
It's one of those things, right? Like you look back at it and you're like, if he had made Perturabo the War Master, would that have satiated Perturabo's need for recognition, though?
Probably not in the long run. Probably not in the long run now.
I think you would have had just another heresy, but Purdy's heresy just doesn't ring a bell. Like it's just not as good looking.
We do joke about like Portarabo just being that one hug, that one well done, attaboy, away from straying from chaos. But I feel like the one thing we forget to always mention is that he had visions of like the Eye of Terror since a child, that like he closed his eyes and he just sees this like crazy energy storm and he doesn't know what it is, and it kind of haunts him. And like it's not quite the same as having a demon sword whispering in your ear, but it's still kind of maybe will fuck you up a little bit.
The Purdy Robert heresy.
That's a winner, I think, that one for sure.
I think it is. We're good there.
Yeah.
We can close the episode now, Mark, just so you know.
Adios.
Right,
okay,
credits.
perfect. Yeah, fuck, cool. I really like the Iron Warriors. Like, they just, even just this thought that Perturabo did this to his Legion again, just to really toughen them up. Love it.
Liar says, warp eye for the Primarch guy.
Warp for the Primarch guy. Fantastic. I'm eyeing up some models over on my counter space, and I'm like, I could do Iron Warriors.
Up next, the Grand Siege. If you need to buy some Iron Warriors too, go to Merlin's Miniatures, by the way. Use promo code Lorehammer. Got that. Perfect. Write that down. The Grand Siege. Perturabo, ever the meticulous strategist, had spent centuries preparing for the moment when he could turn his knowledge of the Imperium's defenses into a weapon. Having studied the fortifications of the Segmentum Obscurus with relentless precision, he utilized a combination of arcane scrying, brutal interrogation of captured loyalists, and a vast network of techno-cultist informants to gain a deep understanding of Imperial tactics, strengths, and weaknesses. This dark intelligence allowed him to exploit the flaws in Imperial defenses systems, giving the Iron Warriors a crucial advantage in the wars to come. His knowledge of the enemy was as thorough as it was ruthless, as he knew exactly where to strike, and the time came to unleash his wrath upon the Imperium. When the fall of Cadia and the creation of the Cicatrix Maledictum signaled the opening of the new chapter in the ongoing conflict, Perturabo seized the opportunity to enact his long-laid plans. With the galaxy split into two by the rift, he mobilized a vast, unrelenting force, calling upon 1,000 armies, each comprised of Chaos Space Marines, Demon Engines, and infernally artillery machines. Ready to bring the Imperium to its knees, the Iron Warriors led the charge, their signature siege tactics honed to perfection over millennia. In a series of coordinated offensives, they targeted the most heavily fortified Imperial worlds, previously thought to be impenetrable. World after world, each bastion of the Imperium strength was brought to the brink of destruction under the unyielding siege of Perturabo's forces. The blockade that followed was nothing short of catastrophic for the Imperium. The once thought secure fortresses fell into chaos as the Iron Warriors' relentless bombardments battered through the defenses. Their demon engines rampaging through the once secure fortress fell into chaos as the Iron Warriors' relentless bombarders battered down the defenses, their demon engines rampaging through the shattered remains. The combined military might of the artillery batteries, war machines pushed the Imperium to the brink, threatening the very core of its power in the segmentum obscurus. The Iron Warriors, never satisfied with simple conquest, aimed to break their enemies, not just by sword, but through slow, agonizing process of siege warfare. A constant barrage that drained the will of their opponents as much as their resources. With each world that fell, the terror spread, and the Imperium began to realize that the Iron Warriors were not just attacking the borders, they were aiming to crush the very heart of their defenses. Grand Siege, yeah, they're coming out and they're claiming planets again. Like, there's been a couple big pushes by Chaos across the centuries, and this is kind of the latest one.
Yeah, this all kind of strikes me as like one big fuck you to the Imperial Fists by deliberately just going for the most fortified places just to systematically tear it all down. Where's your door now?
Yeah.
It's the whole vibe I'm getting from this. It's missing a hand, Father.
Where is your precious yellow armor when you need it?
But the Grand Siege, there's a whole lot more to it, so let's talk about that. In the wake of the 13th Black Crusade, the Iron Warriors have carved a brutal path through the Imperium Nihilus, leaving behind vast, nightmarish fortresses that stand as testaments to their relentless cruelty and unshackled ambition. These towering citadels, forged in the crucible of war and shaped by the cold precision of their siegecraft, are more than mere strongholds. They are symbols of the domination, each one a grim monument to Perturabo's enduring hatred for the Imperium. Rising from shattered worlds like jagged wounds upon reality itself, these fortresses are constructed with an almost obsessive devotion to suffering. Their very foundations laid with the corpses of the conquered. Every structure is an instrument of torment, its corridors echoing with the screams of the enslaved, its walls marked with the scars of unending war. This kind of makes me think of that Rick and Morty episode where they're traveling to one of the dimensions and it's like an evil Rick that has a wall of Mortys just chained up and they're just being stabbed and they're all screaming in tandem.
The best universe of them all, for sure. I love this. They go on this Great Crusade or this Black Crusade and take over a bunch of planets, and then right away they're like, fortify. This is ours now. Build a massive spiked fortress here.
Exactly, and like for me, it just goes to show like how cruel like they've become over the millennia. Like, because it used to just be fortification for fortification's sake. Now it's fortification with intent. I intend to make sure that you suffer and or are afraid.
Exactly. And even better if it's like right over the top of the ruins of an Imperial Fist fortification. You need to pacify Iron, baby. If anybody has seen that animation, that is a fun, hilarious animation.
What is it?
It's a few years old now, but it's basically an Iron Warriors versus Imperial Fists, and it's basically just the Iron Warriors drive up to an Imperial Fist wall, and it's the respective captains just making jabs at each other.
Okay, I think I know which one you're talking about. Sure.
It's kind of like Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
Exactly. Hold on. Hey, guys, go get the thing. And then they just chuck a massive like howitzer like right at the Iron Warrior, and they just like, hey, that could have killed me. Hey, guys, we missed. Get another.
It's like grim, dark spy versus spy.
The fortresses of the Iron Warriors are no mere bastions of defense, but living nightmares wrapped in labyrinthine networks of trenches haunted by demonic entities and fortified with cursed iron and living razor wire, that writhes and constricts like a thing possessed.
Does it talk to you? As you get caught in it, it's like, hi.
I just want to give you a hug.
Haha, you got tangled.
Whether to break the will of those who dare to assault them or to prolong the suffering of those unfortunate enough to be trapped within, these grotesque citadels stand in direct mockery of the Imperium's mighty defenses, each one an improvement upon the bastions once thought unassailable, now perverted and repurposed in service to chaos. It is within these walls that the Iron Warriors perfect their arts of war, devising new ways to grind their enemies into dust while ensuring their own dominion over the broken remnants of the Imperium Nihilus. Such mastery of siegecraft and warp-tainted construction has only further solidified the Iron Warriors' reputation as the galaxy's ultimate warp masons. No mere raiders or marauders, they are methodical conquerors, their martial genius extending beyond destruction and into the very architecture of suffering. The Iron Warriors do not simply wage war, they remake entire worlds into colossal, fortified monuments of their own malevolence, where chaos reigns and hope is but a distant memory. In the Imperium Nihilus, where the light of the Astronomicon falters and order is but a whisper against the howling dark, these fortresses stand as eternal reminders of the Long War, fortresses from which the Iron Warriors will continue their slow, inexorable conquest until all that remains of the Imperium is ash.
Hell yeah, brother.
I love that. I love that term, the Warp Masons. All these fortresses that they build, like, are infused with like warp energy to lift the stone, and it's filled with hate. Of course, a little sprinkle of hate in there as well, and yeah, the living razor wire that's yelling at you as you're tangled in it, just making fun of you, like, gotcha, bitch, you suck. Like, these fortresses just make you feel so bad. Like, yeah, I love it. This warp mason kind of concept's fun.
I'd never heard the warp mason. I was like, whoa, that's a new level of cool. Like, I like that. Like, where it's just something that you just don't think of because they are warp masons. Like, they literally, that's what they are. It's like, that's amazing. I didn't even put that together in my brain.
I mean, Warp Mason, Warp Smith. Like, if you look at the Warp Smith model, and if it's painted in Iron Warrior style, it's like freaking Doc Ock meets a Space Marine.
Speaking of the Warp Masons, let's see about the organization of the Freemasons. I mean, the Warp Masons. All right, so we've got in the leadership, the Iron Warriors organization, if it can be even called that, has long since abandoned any semblance of standard structure. Shattered and twisted by the fractures of their own internal strife, the so-called civil war within their ranks did more than just splinter the Legion. It obliterated any unity they once pretended to have. Now, grand companies operate as fragmented warbands carved up into detachments under the command of lesser champions, each clawing for recognition in the shadow of their Primarch's bitter legacy. There's a cold mechanical logic in their operations, a preference for working in multiples of 3, a habit as calculated as it is obsessive. With Perturabo entombed in his iron fortress on Mendrengard, withdrawn from the very Legion he forged, the Iron Warriors are left in the hands of ruthless warsmiths. These so-called leaders, wielding absolute control over their grand companies, are less visionaries and more tyrants. Functionally equivalent to chapter masters, though even more corrupted by ambition and disdain. Beneath them, chaos champions, still mockingly referred to as captains, lead the bloodied remnants of the companies, their loyalty driven not by honor, but by sheer survival. Among these warlords, a particularly twisted breed emerges, the demon smiths. These individuals possess a grotesque mastery over the fusion of demon and machine, embodying the very perversion of the Iron Warrior's original purpose. Their grasp of this unholy relationship is both a testament to their ingenuity and a stark reminder of just how far the Legion has fallen from the Emperor's light. I think that's sick.
Cool. The Demon Smiths are super cool. Yeah. Maybe I'll read a relic that I have at the very bottom now, as opposed to later. But it's called the Warp Breacher. And just imagine this Demon Smith with one of these. The Warp Breacher is a complex net of mechadendrites possessed by the Iron Warriors and is only used by their Warp Smiths. Every long incisor has been inscribed with a dozen runes in the Dark Tongue, allowing the Warp Breacher's mechadendrites to pull a demon from the warp. When the Iron Warriors go to battle, the wearer of the Warp Breacher can easily pull demons that are attracted to the carnage and thrust their souls into the corporeal form of a nearby device. Afterwards, the infected vehicle will growl like a living thing as the demon within rails against its imprisonment, all to the detriment of any mortal creatures nearby.
That's so sick. That's so freaking cool, man.
Yeah, you ever heard that before? I've never heard how they actually get a demon in a tank like that before. But yeah, they have these things and they just like rip them from the warp and shove them into a tank and like, fuck yeah.
Just so sick. Well, it's like Gerald said, it's like Doc Ock and a space marine, tech marine, like put together with warp demonry. Yeah, like all I can imagine is like just like
Yeah.
the mechadendrites like coming out of the backpack, grabbing a demon through a warp hole, pulling it out and throwing it at a tank. Like, that's all I can
Thrown
imagine.
into
It's
tanks.
amazing.
And just imagine you could do this to like not just your own tanks, but like there's wrecked tanks on the battlefield. They just chucking these demons into it and they're like resurrected back to life almost, you know? Yeah.
I would love to see somebody do like a destroyed tank company, like in like model form, where they have like the tanks are all they basically have like they're all like ripped apart and then you green stuff on like muscle and stuff underneath, and so it's like the treads are on the arms but they've got like muscle underneath of them and they're just like crawling forward. I'm like that'd be so cool to see somebody do in like a model form.
As we go through the Iron Warriors more, we're going to learn a lot about, you know, their despise for weakness in the flesh, and then what happens when they also combine that bionics with a little bit of warp fuckery, and then what also happens when a whole new virus happens called the Obliterator virus. So there's a lot of this like machine and flesh melding with the Iron Warriors. That's super fun. All right, we'll jump into the warbands. The Iron Warriors are brutal, highly organized groups of Chaos Space Marines, each formed in the wake of the Legion's betrayal and fall into the service of Chaos. These warbands often arise from the fractured remnants of the original Iron Warriors Legion, with former officers and leaders taking command of their own forces. Bound by their unrelenting hatred for their enemies and a grim, calculated strategy for survival and conquest. The warbands are typically led by an ambitious Chaos Lord or Warsmith, who view the ancient conflict between the Imperium and the forces of Chaos as merely another stage in the unyielding quest for dominance. As a result, the warbands are often made up of Marines, mercenaries, and other Chaos-aligned forces, united by a sheer desire for devastation and an unshakable belief in the superiority of tactics. What about this for kind of a Chaos God? We talked about maybe they're serving a mini Chaos God that we haven't quite named yet, but the motion behind it would be like the would be dominance, like that kind of control, that feeling you get when you do that. It's mentioned a lot of times, kind of this domineering nature, whether they're like doing that to the battlefield or to like their own kind, or just they're very brutal. And yeah, what do you think of that idea of that maybe manifesting as kind of the god that they serve, as opposed to being Chaos Undivided, you know?
Yeah, I could see that happening, especially if it's from like what you were talking about in earlier episodes, where like if it's like a core emotion that you feel that you can that you feel and that feeds into the warp, I'd say definitely. Like maybe if not dominance, like that sense of superiority, like pride, the deadly sin of pride. You could easily make if not a chaos god, like a warp entity out of like those, like each deadly sin basically. So I could see that happening, and that whole demon engine thing. I did have a joke, or I did have a joke with that before Mike screwed up on me. Technology is great when it works, everybody. But I like to imagine that like being shoved into a demon engine is actually punishment for any of those demons that fail their respective chaos god. Oh, Rodigus, you're a little bit low on your plague tallies here. I don't know. Those Iron Warriors look like they could use some more demon engines. Just saying.
Pay up or you're gonna get shoved in.
I can imagine him being like, I will feed you to the Iron Warriors. Do you know what they did to Bob last month? Turned him into a walking sentinel. Nothing but tentacles. He didn't want that.
He didn't want that. He didn't deserve that.
Yeah. He had a man infused to his eyeball.
Not a pleasant thing.
Nobody wants that. You want men in you? Ew. No, humans, gross. Those are for eating, not becoming a part of.
And speaking of fleshy bits from like the green stuffing that you were talking about, Brody was I specifically remember, I believe it's Only One Bob from the Hobby Happy Hour. He was also a old guest from Old Warhammer, but he actually did like Iron Warriors that fell to Nurgle. And so he created like a deep sea drowned Iron Warriors Legion with like a bunch of fleshy, rotten bits from Nurgle, but also made it like undersea. It was really cool. I need to find him and ask him like to post like his knight, because he had like a Iron Warriors Aligned knights that he just went all out. It was fantastic.
Sounds really cool, actually. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
So so just about it, when you're
But
so just to the general audience, when you're homebrewing your stuff, just about anything is possible. Once you know like the hard lore rules, you can know how to bend them and still make it work. But that's just my 2 cents.
I seen that army before, and I never knew that it was Iron Warriors. I always assumed that it was Death Guard, but yeah, that's so cool. Once formed, these warbands operate with the same cold efficiency and siege-focused tactics that defined the original Iron Warriors Legion. Their primary goal is to engage in brutal warfare, laying siege to worlds, fortresses, and entire systems with devastating precision. A hallmark of these warbands is their ruthless, pragmatic approach to combat, preferring to break down their enemies through attrition and overwhelming firepower, often through long-term sieges and bombardments. They make extensive use of heavy artillery and other siege equipment, reflecting their legion's ancient specialization in fortification destruction. The leadership within each warband is typically hierarchical, though often less rigid than in the days of the Great Crusade, with more decentralized approach that allows for flexibility in violent campaigns. Despite often their chaotic nature, these warbands still maintain a semblance of the Legion's brutal, militaristic discipline, applying their ironclad tactics in service to the Dark Gods.
But are they really in service to the Dark Gods?
I think it depends.
I don't think they are. I really think they're the ones that...
You know, I always say this, and so does a lot of people at 40K. Like, Khorne doesn't care where the blood flows, though. I think, you know, they're doing a lot of damage, and like every trap that they create, every like extra little fortification that they do to trick somebody into stepping somewhere where they shouldn't, that definitely worships change to some degree or not, you know. So whether they admit it or not, like, do bad thing feeds off you, you know.
Do bad thing. Bad thing. Bad thing.
Yeah, exactly. I know, like, they definitely like that agnostic, or not agnostic, they're nihilistic, and like they don't like the Chaos Gods typically, and they're not trying to be their puppets and all that kind of stuff. But I just always go back to, like, Khorne doesn't care whatever logical loophole you think you found. You know, every skull, he's going to be benefiting from it.
That's fair. Like, even if like Imperium forces are killing, you know, somebody, it's still blood for the blood god.
Like, and I guess to validate that point that you made, Mark, like, there is also a meme. I know we're talking about a lot of meme lore here, but it's relevant. Trust me, it's relevant. But it's like Fabius Bile, Typhus, Karn, Abaddon, they're all like, the meme is they're all sitting in like a transport or whatever, and they all have the same thought bubble. Geez, these fools think that they're using chaos when they don't realize they're slaves to the chaos gods, and I can be better than all this, and they're all thinking the same exact thing.
No, that's exactly it. Everyone thinks that they've outsmarted chaos, but ultimately you're still in service to the dark gods when you kind of go down this path. You become part of the great game.
Grimaldus with an absolute banger of a question in the chat.
I'll read it for the sake of humanity. Menstrual cycle count as where the blood flows. We will officially get Lorehammer legal to reach out to everyone and get the correct answer, but I can assume that yes, it does count. We'll get Lorehammer legal to check up and make sure.
Exactly. Blood is blood. Blood for the blood god. Speaking of lots of blood, there's these Iron Warriors who shed a lot of it. So let's talk about their specialty ranks. Warsmith, not Warpsmith. That's different. Warsmith is a leader rank among the Iron Warriors, some of the keenest minds amongst the lords of the Grand Companies. Warsmiths are learned in arcane mechanical lore. Since the Horus Heresy, they often bear demonically infused bionic augmentations, redolent of the twisted mechanical appendages of obliterators. Warsmiths have been observed retaining command of their Grand Company even after being interred in a Chaos Dreadnought. Obliterators. Obliterators are one of the most terrifying and grotesque creations among the Chaos Space Marines. Born from the twisted application of the Obliterator virus, these once proud warriors have been irrevocably altered, their bodies fusing with their power armor and warped by the malign influence of chaos. The transformation renders them into monstrous, hulking figures, part marine, part demon, and part machine. Their appearance is a horrifying fusion of flesh, metal, and infernal energy, with their armor often growing into their flesh, distorting into a horrific, organic extension of their bodies. They have lost their individual identities, becoming less like Marines and more like living, breathing weapons. What makes obliterators especially feared on the battlefield is their terrifying ability to generate and wield an array of devastating weapons directly from their mutated forms. These weapons are formed from their very flesh and armor, with each obliterator able to morph their limbs or torsos into whatever armament is needed at any given moment. Whether it's a heavy plasma cannon, a multi-melta, or even a massive combi bolter, the obliterator's body adapts to the needs of the battlefield with nightmarish efficiency. The versatility makes them incredibly dangerous in combat, as they can switch between different types of firepower on the fly, ensuring that no enemy is safe. The sheer unpredictability and deadly nature of their weaponry, combined with their near immortal resilience, have made obliterators one of the most fearsome assets in service to the Dark Gods. And the Insidium Artifact. The Insidium is an Iron Warrior artifact. This vast suit of bionics was originally implanted to avoid the mutating effects of the warp, but its bearers are now warped by a host of technoviruses. Flesh and bionic alike have melded into a union of horror, while the bearers' disdain for their own corruption rots away. Nonetheless, they have been turned into unstoppable Leviathan.
I include that little artifact because I thought it was so close to kind of what obliterators are like, that kind of mutated, weaponed, fleshed out kind of monstrosity, but very cool. And it's interesting how like this artifact is almost like a curse, and like, you know, when the Iron Warriors get corrupted by the warp, they're cut their hand off to try to sever it. But when it comes to the obliterator virus, it's just too damn cool. You can't like help but have them in your ranks. They're too cool.
Man, this is really making me want to get 40k Iron Warriors, and I already got too much of a backlog as it is.
Yeah, the obliterators, man, I fucking love them.
Brody, you're muted.
Man, I sound like an idiot. I was just talking to myself. Nobody's answering me. I was like, why isn't anybody saying anything to me? Oh, God.
Wow.
Yeah, no,
Gerald's rude.
yeah, Gerald's rude. Mark, I don't want to do another episode with him. I was just looking online at Warhammer, .com, like at the Iron Warriors, at the Chaos Demon, like in Chaos, like Space Marine stuff. Man, some of this stuff's real cool. I really want to paint it, and I'm just like, all right, that's Iron Warriors. That's Iron Warriors. That's Iron Warriors. I was like, all these things could be Iron Warriors. So. Zach, Brody, it's okay. We didn't hear you anyway.
You ever paint the hazard stripes before?
I know. I'm sorry, Jack. Anyways,
that's so funny.
If you like the Iron Warriors and you want to give them a home, we first then have to talk about their home world, Olympia. Before Perturabo's arrival, Olympia was a rugged, mountainous world dominated by fiercely independent city-states, each fortified with towering stone citadels and locked in endless cycles of political intrigue and warfare. Control of mountain passes and high ground dictated power, fostering a culture steeped in martial pride and rivalry. Perturabo, upon being discovered by the Emperor, swiftly turned the disciplined fury of his newly granted Space Marine Legion against Olympia's rulers, deposing the tyrant of Locos and unifying the planet under his iron rule. Yet this was not the end of Olympia's suffering. During the Great Crusade, During the Great Crusade, Perturabo learned of a rebellion festering in his absence, an insurrection secretly incited by the word bearers, but seen by Perturabo as the ultimate betrayal of his home. His response was ruthless and calculated. He offered the Olympians a choice between decimation, killing 1 in 10 of their own, or total annihilation. Most refused, and the Iron Warriors purged the planet city by city, leaving over 5 million dead and the survivors enslaved. The skies of Olympia burned with the pyres of its people, and the ground was soaked with their blood. The final nail in Olympia's coffin came during the scouring, when vengeful Imperial forces bombarded the planet from orbit, obliterating what little remained of Perturabo's shattered homeland, erasing both its defiance and its memory in a final act of retribution.
Adios, bitch. That planet had seen some warfare throughout the 200 years that it kind of got reintroduced into the Imperium. Yeah, it's funny. Lots of the Primarchs kind of go to their planet and they turn into like good places again. But that never quite happened here. Perturabo never became beloved by his homeworld. They never threw him parades. In fact, they betrayed him and they tried to overthrow his homeworld.
Yeah, pretty crazy, some of that.
But they paid the price of iron, ultimately.
They did.
Barring a very few exceptions, Primarch homeworlds, they don't have a lot going for them. Most of them being destroyed by 40k, but there's just a lot of bad juju around Primarch homeworlds.
Yeah, I suppose.
You're not wrong.
So after Olympia was destroyed, they went to, and we've mentioned it before, Medringard. And Medringard is a world, or is less of a world and more of a vast, hellish prison. A bleak, brutal landscape where the screams of dying slaves echo through endless canyons of rusted iron and blackened stone. Here, the Iron Warriors have shaped their demon world into a twisted reflection of their own relentless, unfeeling nature. Towering fortresses clawed the corrupted skies, each one a bastion of suffering and oppression. Overseen by warsmiths who rule like tyrants over the grand companies. These warlords, driven by ceaseless ambition and bitterness, often turn their siegecraft upon one another, their internal power struggles adding to the planet's perpetual bloodshed. The greatest of these fortresses, a monolithic citadel of cruelty and precision, belongs to Perturabo himself, the Lord of Iron, who watches over his shattered legion with a calculating, unforgiving gaze. Above Medringrad's tortured surface, great chaos warships hang like vultured, tethered to the highest towers, blotting out the sky with a black sun vomits smoky tendrils across the horizon. Beneath these towering spires, slave pits fester with broken and the damned, worked to death in the Iron Warriors' endless hunger for the war and fortification. This kind of back-end logistics is kind of funny, Where are they getting all like the rockcrete to do all these fortifications? Oh, this guy's back on the homeworld just mixing, and then, their bones are then turned into the next batch or whatever when they die.
This whole description sounds almost sounds exactly like the Soul Forges that are run by Vastor. So it's really a wonder why he and the Iron Warriors are not best friends.
Corpse starch is the concrete binder.
I think Brody's onto something here.
Yeah, they definitely need to go for a coffee date. Yes.
It's a useful product. It's like Windex. You can use it for anything.
Even the picture of these, their ships up and above orbit, chained down to the planet. They got spires going up to them. Very cool imagery too. The surface crawls with mutants, known as the unfleshed, grotesque remnants of failed experiments or discarded tools, roaming the hills and gullies like ghosts of the planet's unending torment. Settled by the Iron Warriors after the Horus Heresy, Medringrad became both their sanctuary and their battlefield, a world where even the Legion's civil wars are fought amidst the ruins of their own making, every stone soaked in the blood of slaves and traitors alike. Yeah, man, these guys, it's so funny. They're like, oh man, for 200 years we had to fucking just do shitty siege warfare. So you know what? We're going to join the rebellion. And then for 10,000 years, they've just been in the warp doing siege warfare to each other. Like,
I'm so much more than siege warfare.
All that just to go back, eh? Like a dog to vomit.
A bit of a recurring theme with these Traitor Legions, don't you think?
Also, like the mutants, the surface crawls with mutants known as the unfleshed, grotesque remnants of
no.
failed experiments
Oh
or
no.
discarded tools. Dude, what tools are you using, people? Like, where you're like, I gotta mutate this guy and he's gonna put this bolt in like, on this thing.
I know part of what this is for, and I'm really afraid we're going to be covering that very soon because the very next thing is recruitment. Hold on. Oh, Brody, I apologize in advance. Brody.
Shaken in your unfleshed skin.
No, I don't want to know.
Here we go. Recruitment. In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, the Iron Warriors' recruitment process is as brutal and unforgiving as the Legion itself. No longer bound by the rigid doctrines of the Imperium, they harvest potential recruits from the shattered worlds they conquer, selecting from the broken, the desperate, and the strong. Whether these are captured slaves from fallen hive cities, survivors of planetary bombardments, or the last remnants of decimated populations, are all subjected to the Legion's merciless trials. Their newly acquired gene seed, often stolen or corrupted through techno-organic sorcery, is implanted with little regard for the recruit's survival. Those who endure the agonizing process are immediately thrown into violent rites of passage, siege drills, arena combats, and grueling endurance tests designed to crush any lingering weaknesses. Failure is met with death. Survival is the only mark of worth. And now, that seems pretty par for the grim darkness of the 41st millennium. So Gerald, what's so bad about that? Well, I have one more paragraph to get through, and then Brody's going to explain what is so bad about all this. But even survival is not enough. The recruits are stripped of their past identities and molded into tools of war. Their humanity eroded by relentless indoctrination and exposure to the corrupting influence of chaos. Warsmiths oversee this process with cold precision, selecting only those who demonstrate absolute obedience and a ruthless efficiency in warfare. Many recruits are subjected to further modifications, fused with cybernetic enhancements or even demonic augmentations, transforming them into grotesque parodies of the Adeptus Astartes they once sought to emulate. This relentless cycle of brutality and dehumanization ensures that every Iron Warrior who emerges from the crucible of recruitment is not merely a soldier but a siege engine of flesh and iron, loyal only to Perturabu's bitter legacy and the unending wars of the Long Crusade.
Are we ready?
I don't want to.
You have to.
Fine. All right, everybody, buckle up.
I feel like this is punishment for us, I feel like this is punishment for us too. So
all right, so we're gonna cover this horrificness that is the Demonculaba. A monstrous undertaking by the Iron Warriors was a brutal and relentless experiment aimed at creating new Chaos Space Marines by using the corrupted wombs of human females. The project, overseen by the treacherous warsmith Hansu, was an abomination even by the standards of the Traitor Legion. It began with the capture of human females, slaves rounded up on Mendringard and subjected to horrors beyond comprehension. Shackled naked in iron cages, they were forced grotesque nutrients designed to distort their bodies, swelling them to unnatural proportions, preparing them as unwilling vessels for the twisted births that would follow. In this perverse breeding ground, the heretics, led by the savage morticians, employed a dark fusion of surgical techniques, chemical manipulation, and chaos sorcery to alter the slaves' internal structures, embedding stolen Imperial Fist gene seed within their wombs. That's a lot.
That's a lot. Somebody tell a knock-knock joke.
That's a lot. Once the birthing womb was ready, an adolescent male, also taken from Mendringard slaves, was sealed inside. No. Was sealed inside through a procedure akin to a reverse C-section. What followed was a horrific rebirth, the boy emerging without skin, his body a raw, pulsing mass of flesh, vulnerable to the shock of the process. If he survived, he was judged for his worthiness to be made into an Astartes. If he failed, his mutated body was discarded like refuse, flushing through the sewers of the Colin Ghoul and left to die in the wastelands surrounding the fortress. But in rare, twisted instances, these abominations survived, scavenging and forming the tribe of Unfleshed, a grotesque testament to the Iron Warriors' brutal disregard for life. Those who passed the inspection were forced into their new existence as heretic Astartes, their bodies given new skin, harvested from the flayed, agonized bodies of human slaves, stretched and torn to fit their larger, twisted forms. Some of the flesh used are from the corpses of Iron Warriors themselves, their own gene seed passed on in a desperate attempt to create a new breed of soldiers. The women who bore these horrors suffered ceaselessly, their bodies used and abused, only finding release in death. A slow and agonizing end to their nightmare. The Demonculaba was not just a process of creation, it was an unending cycle of suffering, a dark mockery of birth, life, and death that fed relentless hunger of the Iron Warriors. The Ultramarines and Euro Ventress put an end to this horrific process. Thank God. Okay, I'm just saying right now, like, thank fuck for Uriel Ventures. No, I need to swallow that right now. Oh my god. Oh man.
Yeah, it's crazy. They give birth to these things and they like have no flesh, so then they go flay a bunch of people and just slap the skin on. Like that's like some type of fucking substitute.
All I can think of is like the flex seal tape. Like just slap it on.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man.
You leaking blood? Katoosh.
Yikes.
Yeah, no, that was so you know what's really funny? I've liked the Iron Warriors and I've read a lot of, you know, Warhammer novels and stuff. I've never fucking heard of this. Never heard of this before.
It was like some kind of, I can't remember if it was a short story. This was written by Graham McNeil of all people. Mr. Graham McNeil, fantastic person. Love your work. Please, I hope you found God after you created that.
Yeah, this is like War Master or Warsmith Hansu and his kind of Iron Warriors omnibus. So it's a pretty prominent like
Man,
40k book.
crazy. You know, I haven't read the Iron Warriors omnibus, so that's probably why. But yeah, no, like that is crazy. Like and the fact that that got through Black Library Legal is amazing. They're like, so we're going to take women and we're going to alter their bodies to do a reverse C-section to give birth to superhuman gene altered soldiers. And if it doesn't work, we're going to just kick those out like refuse. And those are going to be mutants that run around in the hills. And they're like, no, like you can't do that.
That we can hunt on our own whim.
One headcanon explanation as to why they were just so horrific. Hansu must have found some kind of Drukari's like private journal and got the idea. That is the only reason I could think of that they would resort to that.
Yeah.
Exactly. that actually kind of half-ass makes sense. So like, that's oh man. You know, my homebrew like lore for my Imperial Guard or the Vostroyan Deathborn, where they're like they instead of being the firstborn, it's they've been like the mothers have died in childbirth, and so they're called the Deathborn, and that's like the regiment gets all the kids that kill their moms, and I'm like, so like that's horrific. This is way worse. Like it's not it's just bad. Like I thought mine was bad. This is way worse. I don't even feel bad anymore. Like mine's fine.
At least you're not killing the mothers. They're just dying tragically.
Right?
No, I said I like that bit of lore. I remember listening to that listener lore episode.
So the next little step of this process that we talk about, it's not as bad, but we do talk about the gene seed. They get it from a couple different spots. So during the Unification Wars, the Great Crusade, The Iron Warrior's gene seed was hailed for its exceptional adaptability, thriving in harsh conditions with minimal rejection. It was this resilience that allowed the Iron Warriors to maintain formidable numbers, even amidst the brutal attrition of the Crusade and the later betrayal of the Heresy. Their gene seed, easily mass-produced and efficient, ensured that the Legion was always at full strength, a relentless force that could be wielded at the Emperor's command. But this seeming strength was a mere illusion of durability, masking the brutal cost of its production, flesh and blood traded for numbers. Now, however, long exposure to the Eye of Terror has corrupted their gene seed, twisting it in many ways that reflect the Legion's descent into madness. Mutations spread like rot among their ranks, with many of the Iron Warriors replacing their decayed limbs with cold mechanical appendages. The legacy of their resilience on the war machines becoming an inseparable part of them. Those who bear the Iron Warrior's gene seed are plagued by suspicion, paranoia, and razor-sharp intelligence, always calculating, always observing, their minds as twisted as their forms. Like their traitorous counterparts, the Iron Warriors, driven by bitter necessity, are forced to pillage the gene seed of loyalist Astartes, for their own gene seed has been irrecoverably tainted by the warp. Once a source of strength, it now lies impotent, unable to form true Astartes from the flesh of mere mortals. This grim practice is not born of honor or pride, but of resentment, an act of calculated desperation. The new recruits forged from the stolen gene seed are labeled half-breeds, a scornful term that brands them as inferior, no matter how much they prove themselves on the battlefield. These warriors, though essential to their legion's survival, are never truly accepted. They are reviled by their battle brothers, forever reminded they are not fully of the Fourth Legion. The disdain is most palpable among those who served alongside Perturabo during the Heresy, who see these half-breeds as a reminder of the Legion's fall from grace, incapable of redemption and forever bound to the legacy of betrayal. Yeah, these half-breeds and stuff, and I can just imagine how much they hate using them. But it's funny that they've made like their own loner class out of their own group. You know, normally the Iron Warriors are kind of that like loser in the corner. They're, you know, we've joked about him becoming the school shooter type character, you know, writing his manifestos and then burns everything down. And then, yeah, they kind of make a bunch of these kind of half-breeds where they all shelter them into the corner. They don't like them. They all make fun of them. It's always the bottom of a shit pile somewhere.
That kind of, I guess, leads to the question, though. Like all the traitor legions, basically, like most of their gene seed is tainted by the warp now. They're having to pillage from loyalist gene seed to create this chimeric gene seed. But isn't that eventually, like, over enough time just going to be like, that's going to be the extinction of the traitor legions, because they just, like, unless they happen to know about Call's Primaris project and know about the gene stocks that he has, like, they're not going to be making real true-born Iron Warriors, Night Lords, or Emperor's children, so to speak.
I think you're right. Yeah, and like I just read a little while ago a Alpha Legion novel. It's one of the new ones, and basically they acknowledge that almost nobody in the Alpha Legion is a true Alpha Legionnaire anymore. They're like, no, like none of us have. We've all been in the Long War, but none of us were there at the start. Like they've kind of acknowledged that, like, over 40,000 years, we're not really the same thing anymore. We're different. We can adapt.
Yeah.
And the one guy, he said, it was like, he was like, how did he say it? Basically, like, the flesh can die, but the idea remains alive. So, like, the idea of the Alpha Legion or the idea of the Iron Warriors will always be there, but they will eventually all turn into those half-breeds, and they won't be who they thought they were at once.
And of course, the one thing about the Alpha Legion that's always going to stay the same is they're all Alfarius.
Yeah. That was one thing too. Like the in that book, the one guy is he never says I am Alfarius, because he's black and he has dreadlocks. Like, he's like pictured as this, like he's got long dreadlocks and he's black. And they're like, and there's a whole bunch of these other like war bands. I'm on Farius, man. But yeah, no, he's like there's like one guy, and it's like they're all like they all look identical. They're all identical, and then like the other warband is him and a whole bunch of other guys that he's been with, and none of them look like Alfarius. And these guys are all like they've genetically modified themselves to what they think Alfarius will look like. It was really interesting.
That's so cool.
So half breeds and all that stuff, and I mean, at this point, we know like the Iron Warrior's main shtick is siege warfare, but for the sake of completion, for completion's sake, we'll talk about their combat doctrine. They have an efficiency about them that makes their corruption all the darker. It lies deep indeed to leave the surface undisturbed. Discipline without, but in their hearts is a I'm an idiot. That is a quote from an Imperial Fistler Cruise arc. Let's just rewind the clock here and start that back over. They have an efficiency about them.
Yeah, I'm like, normally you do awesome voices. What happened?
Yeah, I went blind for a second. That's just the bleach from cleansing myself of the demonculaba section. Okay, here we go. They have an efficiency about them that makes their corruption all the darker. It lies deep indeed to leave the surface undisturbed. Discipline without, but in their hearts is a deviance that I'm glad I cannot imagine. Reclusiarch Lycaon of the Imperial Fists. The Iron Warriors are not just masters of siege warfare, they revel in it. Thriving on the calculated grind, breaking down their enemies piece by piece. Their fortifications are not mere structures, they are monuments to their unyielding will, designed to withstand anything that dares challenge them. And they build them with the kind of grim precision that reflects their relentless, obsessive drive to fortify and endure. After an initial landing, they waste no time setting up field fortifications. Their preparations are as meticulous as a predator stalking its prey. Before the barrage begins, they send their infiltration units, those silent shadows to dismantle any semblance of defense. They sabotage, they ambush, they cripple any hope of resistance. Their attacks are not rushed. They move with deliberate, crushing precision of a machine, a slow, suffocating force that wears down the enemy, methodically draining them of their will to fight. When the moment arrives, when the enemy is helpless and broken, the Iron Warriors make sure to annihilate them at their leisure, savoring the victory they know is inevitable. The use of the Traitor Titan Legions is so frequent, it blurs the line between the Legion and the Titans themselves. Some Imperial analysts are foolish enough to believe the Titans are simply another extension of the Iron Warriors' will, a mistake they will regret, for the Iron Warriors treat them as little more than siege towers, mobile and unstoppable. These engineers are not just soldiers, they are the embodiment of a calculated destruction. Over the years, they have accumulated a horrific arsenal of siege engines. Termites, Dreadclaws, Imperial Artillery, Leviathans, all carefully guarded by the First Company as if they were sacred relics. And then there are the Corvus assault pods, a tool of destruction that brings the very Titans to the enemy's doorstep, overwhelming them with the unstoppable force of a hammer and an anvil. Those who have faced the Iron Warriors in battle often mistake their preference for long-range bombardment and sieging for weakness. They think that a swift, brutal assault could break their will. Fools. The Iron Warriors have been honed in the crucible of years-long sieges, their skill in brutal close-quarters combat as refined as their mastery of artillery. They are just as capable of delivering devastating blows at point-blank range as they are at breaking their enemies from afar, and when the time comes, they will crush anyone who dare think otherwise.
One thing I keep thinking about every time that long-range bombardment is talked about, it's not just artillery, it's also from their spaceship doing orbital bombardment. I love that concept. They seem like, we talk about them being like siege experts, but they're also like drop pod assault masters, I would imagine. Like, they do their bombardments and they hit where they need to. Like, they're still good at a lot of things. They're not just like limited.
Also, like the whole the Iron Warrior's been honed in the crucible of years-long sieges. Their skill in brutal close quarters combat as refined as their mastery of artillery. Like, they are still Astartes. They still can wreck your shit. Get ready, here I come, Purdy Robert. incoming. So, like, I think honestly, it's their combat doctrines being that they are like an artillery and siege and all that kind of stuff. But whenever anybody says siege, all I can think about is World War One and the underground fighting that happened. And I just imagine the Iron Warriors taking it to another level of underground warfare, having specialized drills that go down there, and then like they do like the termite attacks that the Krieg do, but on a much larger, more terrifying like scale.
Yeah, those tunnel networks under all the fortifications, man, must be
Yeah.
wild. So maybe they're the masters of opposite of the drop pod assault. They're from underneath with all their termite diggers and all that kind of stuff. They do the bombardment from the top, then when that's stopped, then they dig up.
Their drop pods. I was gonna say their drop pods just have like big drills on the bottoms of them, so they just go into the earth and keep going in.
If anybody remembers from the Incredibles, this I didn't even think about that. I was thinking about the Underminer from the first Incredibles. Behold, I am the Underminer.
I am the Underminer. I love it. Oh my god! But with their combat doctrines, we got to talk about their beliefs as well. The Iron Warriors have never forgotten the bitterness of their betrayal. They know with a cold certainty that the Emperor used their legion as little more than cannon fodder, sending them to fight the bloodiest, most brutal battles of the Great Crusade, while the favored legions basked in glory. Their sacrifices were forgotten, their triumphs overlooked, and as they were left behind to garrison the conquered worlds, fading into obscurity while others took their place in the annals of history. Worse still, they know the truth behind their disgrace. The Imperial Fist Primarch Rogel Dorn incited the people of Olympia against them, further tarnishing their name and ensuring they were discarded once they had outlived their usefulness. But do not forget, vengeance simmers in their veins, a quiet, calculating fury that will one day be exacted upon both the Emperor and Dorn. Their wrath will not be hasty or reckless. It will be precise and it will be unrelenting. The Iron Warriors view themselves as titans, the titans of ancient Terran legend, unleashed upon the galaxy. They are the scourge of the stars, reaving and pillaging without concern for laws or limitations. Nothing, be it natural or man-made, will stand in their way. They do not bow before the ruinous powers with the zeal of the devout. They honor them, yes, but their true loyalty lies elsewhere. Their greatest allegiance is to Perturabo, their Primarch, the one who saved them from the false emperor's hollow promises. Perturabo, who saw through the lies and knew that they had been cast aside as pawns to further a sham of glory. He gave them purpose when none other would, and for that they will never falter in their loyalty to him.
Yeah, they are fun when it comes to the Traitor Legions because their belief system's just so much different than all the other chaos. They don't take it to that same level of like evil, dark. Like they're definitely evil, they're bad guys, but when they do a bunch of butchering or whatever, it's not just for the sake of butchering. It's because they need to put a body pile somewhere to climb up a wall. So you got to make some bodies. There's a reason behind their butchering. There's more, utilitarian reason for it.
Right? There's always a reason.
Exactly. I love how they are like built up in their head. Like, we're titans of Terra. We go all the way back then. Like they're cocky in their own rights. And I've said it before. Perturabo should have been War Master, and I'm sure these guys think the same thing as they held together the Horus Heresy. As they laid siege to Terra and all these things.
Yep, exactly. And like the other thing, like I was gonna kind of hit on that as well. That the siege of Terra, they left. Like Perturabo just got fed up with Horus, and he's like, I'm out of here. My legion and I are gone. See you later. And they just pieced out. And it really, like, I don't think people realize how much of a hit that was to the traitor forces. Like, it really kind of stopped a lot of things in their tracks, and other legions had to start getting involved. The Iron Warriors could have basically done it themselves. and just used auxiliaries for everything else. Like, it's pretty crazy how much they had their hands in that, and then they just said, you know what? No, you're still not giving me you're giving me the same kind of respect as as the Emperor did. We're done. We're going to do our own thing,
Mm-hmm.
and they just left, and it really messed up a lot of things. And people might say, like, hey man, if you just given him a little bit of the things that he wanted, he could have, finished the siege earlier. There wouldn't have been no Ultramarines like coming in saving the day. You kind of screwed this up for us. Your bed laying it. So I don't know.
Yeah. The common joke was like Perturabo basically hard carried the heresy, especially during the Siege of Terra, and now you can see why. Like Mortarion was like a close second, but other than Horus, who actually kept it all together, Purdy was the one that was basically doing everything to the letter, to the way Horus wanted it. And then after Purdy got fed up with how he was being treated, yeah, just like Brody said, fuck the shit, I'm out. And then everything just falls apart afterwards.
Exactly. It's very interesting to see how that belief system of the superior.
Like, what would have happened if the Iron Warrior stayed? Like, yeah, okay, Horus would have died, and the Emperor would have been put on the
Emperor would have been put on the throne. Yeah. Yeah. No. So are you still there, Mark?
last episode. I got Starlink, man, and I can't wait. I'll be surfing the internet like it's 2006.
Mark's just running on dial-up. Everybody else got Wi-Fi. Mark's like, I got that dial-up, that Panamanian dial-up. It's not even as good as the North American dial-up. Oh man, but no, like I honestly think that Perturabo really, like, if he had stayed, the Siege of Terra would have been finished far quicker, and it would have been basically all the other legions getting there, all the loyalist legions getting there just way too late and being picked off at a point of power and whatnot. Because that's the other thing with the Emperor gone. If the Emperor had died, the Cicatrix Maledictum, instead of being in Cadia going across the galaxy, would have been at Terra tearing across the galaxy, right? That's basically what would have happened. I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, like, even if he stayed, even if Horus died and the Emperor was throned up, like, they could have still then kept going and maybe killed the Emperor all the way, or like killed the Imperial Fists all the way, killed Rogel Dorn. They kept going. Who knows what would have happened there and changed it all. But instead, he's like, fuck this. Time to go make some fortresses, have people siege them. So up next, we talk about their appearance. And the Iron Warriors are Chaos Space Marine Legion that is known for its cold, calculating nature and mastery of siege warfare. Their appearance reflects this brutal, militaristic aesthetic, with a heavy focus on industrialized, war-torn aesthetics. Iron Warriors wear dark, weather power armor that is typically a deep, dull iron gray or silver, often with rust and battle damage marking the surface. Their armor is adorned with sharp angles and jagged edges, reflecting their siege-focused tactics. The surface of their armor often has sections of pitting, wear, and corrosion, giving them a battered, utilitarian look. The Iron Warriors' armor is also reinforced with additional plating, adding to their heavily fortified, indomitable appearance. Their helmets are typically angular and stark, with narrow slit-like visors that give them a cold, emotionless look. Some may have additional markings like skulls, spikes, or the sigil of the Iron Warriors, often displayed in the crude, almost industrial style. The Iron Warriors wield heavy, grim-looking weapons such as siege cannons, autocannons, and bolters, all reflecting their relentless focus on destruction and war. Some may also be seen carrying large, cumbersome siege tools or power fists, further embodying their role as experts in breaching defenses and crushing enemies beneath the weight of relentless assault. Their appearance is of ruthless, unflinching brutality, a far cry from the more ornate, regal look of the other Chaos Space Marine legions. The Iron Warriors are the embodiment of relentless warfare, destruction, and grim focus on the task at hand, no matter the cost. And oh yeah, they like to paint hazard stripes on their armor. We've been calling it the reverse OSHA. And I like that. Like,
they are the violation. They are the OSHA violation.
They are the violation, those guys, yeah. Their Legion badge is pretty cool, too. I've always liked it. The Legion's badge is that of an iron mask formed into the shape of a skull. Upon seeing this symbol, few could doubt the intent and grim determination of the stalwart Legion. When the Iron Warriors turned to Chaos, this symbol was slightly redesigned and now superimposed over the symbol of an 8-pointed Chaos star. Before that and after the Horus Heresy, the Iron Warriors often painted and continue to paint their weapons and other heavy weapon equipment with black and yellow construction chevrons to emphasize their tendency to construct their own fortifications while demolishing their enemies.
I was like, that can't be why.
It's because they are the OSHA violation.
I thought it was just like big warning stripes being like, danger, danger, we're coming closer, danger, danger.
I'm getting like Space Invader vibes. That's it. They're black and yellow, like a bumblebee.
If you shoot at us, we'll be pissed.
You try to swat it, that just makes them mad, and they sting you.
Their new symbol is just a mechanical bumblebee on a field of yellow and black.
The Iron Bees.
Perturabo is the queen.
Petty Purdy.
Oh man, 10,000 years of the warp is a hell of a thing, eh?
I'm so sorry. I just had this like picture in my mind of like one of the Primarchs, like the lion or Rebuculum, like seeing Perturabo come out of the warp and him being a bumblebee, and then them just being like, "What happened to you?" All right, I made some deals with some weird demons.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it. Just imagine me 10,000 years ago. That's what we're going to go with. And they're like, no, we can't. You're a gigantic demonic bumblebee that has tits. Why are you doing this?
Have you seen Angron over there? Have you seen all these other demon Primarchs, how sweet they are? And you come out as a bumblebee?
Yeah, there you go. Grimalda's, I'm a bee, I'm a bumblebee. Perturabo bee.
I don't think I can take the... GW needs to take this to heart, because whenever they do release a 40k Perturabo, I want to see him as a mechanical bumblebee, please. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, GW. GW marketing team, you heard it here.
Thank you.
I take my royalties by check, please. Thank you. All right. Well, the other reason we are talking about 40k is because they have a bunch of batshit insane war gear, so why should the Iron Warriors be any different? The Iron Warriors are a master of both ranged and melee combat, with a particular focus on heavy, powerful weapons designed to obliterate enemies from afar. Their favored ranged weapons include the iconic bolter, as well as specialized weapons like the Reaper autocannon, which churns out devastating firepower in close quarters or medium range engagements. The Legion's heavy weapons are often augmented with siege weapons like missile launchers and las cannons, used to tear apart armored vehicles for fortification. In close combat, the Iron Warriors are known for wielding brutal melee weapons such as power fists, chain axes, and massive serrated blades. These weapons reflect their harsh and efficient fighting style, designed to crush through both enemy ranks and defensive structures with unyielding force. Artillery is the cornerstone of the Iron Warriors' approach to warfare. With a focus on long-range bombardment and siege tactics, the Legion deploys a wide array of devastating artillery pieces. The dreaded Basilisk, with its long-range Earthshaker cannon, allows the Iron Warriors to bombard enemy positions from afar, breaking apart defenses with overwhelming firepower. Other siege engines, such as the Medusa and a mobile artillery platform, are utilized to smash fortifications and blast holes in enemy lines. The Iron Warriors take pride in their ability to level entire cities and fortresses with precise and calculated bombardments, reducing their opponents to rubble before moving in for the final kill. And I'd like to make a quick point that this reminded me of I can't remember which lore tuber, but he was talking about the Guard, but they also make use of Basilisk. Words are hard tonight. And people give the Tau a lot of shit for their railguns, apparently. I don't know enough about that, but Mark can confirm or deny because of like the ridiculously long range. But then when you look at the data sheet of a Basilisk, you are never not in range of those things. If you see something across the board and don't want to see it, it will not be seen anymore.
Yeah, that thing has like a range of 102 inches or something like that. 120.
Exactly. You are never not in range.
I had a bunch of Basilisks. I had a bunch of Basilisks, and I got rid of them all because I'm like, indirect fire sucks, and it's not really my thing. Artillery's not really my thing. But now I'm like, kind of want an artillery regiment. I'm like, oh no, what have I done?
I just keep picturing a bunch of Space Marines Iron Warriors on the back of those artillery machines just pounding shells back, man. Like so many shells that normal humans are pulverized by the vibrations or whatever, the concussion. Just relentless. playing like some type of like fucking rock metal in the background as they're doing it.
Yeah, borrow some Emperor's Children, Noise Marines, just to play their anthem. But you can easily like kit bash some like traitor guards, especially if they're Krieg, because of that whole meme is just like charge bayonets, but don't stop the artillery.
Maybe I gotta get some artillery. Goddamn.
Think of it just like an oak. Big gun make big boom, and especially if they're painted yellow because it makes big explosions.
Big Daka.
Big Daka. Okay. Not an orc episode. In battle, the Iron Warriors deploy a wide range.
But it could be, man. One day, maybe the episode notes would just change halfway through. Yeah, change halfway through an orc wogging over it.
In battle, the Iron Warriors deploy a wide range of heavily armored tanks to support their siege efforts. The most iconic of these is the dreaded Vindicator, a heavily armored tank equipped with a siege cannon capable of pulverizing enemy structures and vehicles. They also make extensive use of the Predator tank, armed with twin-linked las cannons or autocannons, perfect for laying down, suppressing fire, or destroying armored targets at range. For more devastating assault operations, the Iron Warriors rely on Spartan assault tanks, which is heavily armored and capable of carrying a full squad of Marines into the heart of the enemy's defenses. These tanks, coupled with the Legion's relentless infantry assaults, form the backbone of the Iron Warriors' strategy of attrition and destruction.
Yeah, that's kind of their three kind of forms, man. They got their soldiers, they got their artillery, and they got their tanks. They're gonna fuck you up with one of those three tactics.
They always got something. It's been so long since I've had to use computers for like work calls and stuff like this. Like I went from working from home and having like to be on the whole thing all the time when it came to stuff like this, and now I'm just like, I don't know if I'm muted or not. I'm just gonna start talking. They do have like a solution for everything. They have their artillery, they have like weird siege weapons, and they have like the actual like infantry assaults that they do as well, that they can really tackle any problem. They're one of the best legions for that.
We even talked a little bit about their ability to be pretty stealthy too when the time comes, because when you're doing all these like sabotage acts or like recon acts or whatever, yeah, you need to be stealthy to be able to get to that bridge to plant the demolition charge to, do these kind of extra little things. So don't count them out in that area either.
I like to point out that like we are talking about their stealth. It's not like because each legion has its main shtick that means it's the only thing that they do. Like we talked about in the Dark Angels episode, they're generalists. The Ultramarines, they're generalists, but each they have their preferred thing to do. Like the Raven Guard is the stealth guys, but so can an Ultramarine. They can do stealth too. Believe it or not, a World Eater can probably stealth their way in unless the nails are biting them. Please don't kill me, Toasty.
Right? Just Karn the Betrayer, just like trying to sneak. Like, just groaning as he's trying to be sneaky.
The nails are biting so bad.
But it's true. Like everybody's like, well, these guys are the stealthy. Just like, but like, do they have to be?
Hashtag not all Astartes.
Not all Astartes, bro.
Yeah.
but like that's like the other thing. Like everybody always does like white scars as like bikers. Like they're only fast. They're all fast. It's like, yeah, but what happens to those white scars that are interred in dreadnoughts? What happens to those guys? And so like I have a small white scars force that is like mostly like vehicles and like some infantry and stuff. But like I had a friend of mine gift me a whole bunch of dreadnoughts that I've turned into like white scars, contemptors, and siege dreadnoughts that I have like in the backstory for me. They're all the dreadnoughts that are like interred within the Chagorian monastery, like their fortress monastery that protect the homeworld. And they're like only awoken in time of great need or battle on Chagoris. So like you can have different things for each legion, and like, white scars, they're fast. They don't use dreadnoughts. Well, every legion uses dreadnoughts, or every chapter uses dreadnoughts. Some just don't use them as much. Like you can still do these things, right?
Again, know the rules so you can know how to bend them. And at that point,
Yeah.
just about anything is possible, except for female Space Marines.
But hey, anything's possible. You can even turn Wraithbone into just an alloy as opposed to a solidified warp material. So, anything's possible nowadays in this brave new world of 40K.
Oh, too soon, Mark. Too soon.
Anything's possible.
No, we all know I stand by that nothing past 8th edition is canon, so that warp bone doesn't affect me. You can't hurt me no more, GW. I'm solo.
I'm not afraid anymore.
I'm not afraid anymore, GW. Come at me. You can't hurt me with your lore changes.
Yeah, exactly. I am my own lord.
I am my own lord.
I am the great and powerful Marcus Prime of Warhammerus.
Tell me about these Iron Warrior artifacts here.
The Iron Warriors artifacts. The flesh metal exoskeleton artifact. This warrior embodies the maxim iron within, iron without, in a quite literal sense. His body, long ago clad in the flesh metal, so prized by the eye of Terror's warpsmith, has bonded with his protective war gear so that his anatomy is metallic on the inside as well as the outside.
Tight. Yep.
Blade that manages to penetrate his armor will blunt itself on the hardened flesh beneath, and the return blow will not be long in coming. Even those enemies that somehow deal the warrior significant damage will see their adversaries' cabled muscles reknit in a frenzy of silvered fibers until they are rebuilt as strong as ever before. No other way to say it. That's metal. It's metal as hell. It's so super metal. The number 3, Eurydice. Eurydice is a cursed jump pack used by Raptor Captain, later Warsmith, Rodan of the Iron Warriors. This most valuable piece of war gear, he claimed it from his former brother, Sergeant Gaios, during the coup in which Warsmith Andros overthrew his predecessor. The jump pack is possessed by the warp and therefore has capabilities beyond anything produced by the Adeptus Mechanicus of the Imperium. It is also semi-sentient and dangerously fickle. Having deliberately failed Gaios and dropped him to Earth to be killed. For this reason, its demonic equivalent of a machine spirit requires constant placating with hymns and infusions of human blood. In addition to its thrusters, Eurydice is augmented by a pair of outstretched wings sheathed in reptilian leather. What a strange thing.
And just imagine too, some Chaos Lord's like, please, just give me that relic. I want it. I need it. I want to feed it blood before I go to bed every night. Just please. I don't think you'll drop me.
Right? Oh man, I can't believe that this is like, he's like mid-flight. He's like, "This is sick," and then he's like, "Yeah, it is." And like, see ya. The last human you fed me was garbage.
Oh, you think I'm actually going to fly you to a safe location? Drop. Gotcha, bitch.
Right? The Warp Breacher. Oh, this is the one we talked about earlier with its mechadendriles possessed by the warp, and it just goes in, grabs demons, and throws them into other objects.
Yeah, so we already read that Warp Breacher one, and then the other one I wanted to mention was the Iron Circle, and we talked about that in the last episode, where it was the Iron Robotaton, the Iron Robotics that guard Puerto Rabo. Do you guys think that he still has those in 40k time?
Didn't he become his own demon, demon Primarch? Like he's demon Primarch Puerto Rabo now?
Yeah, so then why would he need some bodyguards if you're immortal?
Well, my thought process is because he used them as they were almost semi-sentient, his mental processes still guided them. Would when he became a demon Primarch, would they have just amalgamated into his body structure to strengthen him?
Or it could kind of be I can't remember which book, but there was one where Corvus Corax was joined by a squad of Terminators as his bodyguard, quote unquote. But then he just kind of laughs it off. He's like, "Yeah, these are just for show," and just shoos them away. And then he proceeds to pound against whatever enemy he's facing.
Does a Primarch really need bodyguards? Is there something that you guys can do that I can't? Like,
Angron has his 8 bloodthirsters that bodyguard him, but that's maybe just to keep the rest of the world safe from Angron. Maybe.
the bloodthirsters have to calm his bloodthirst. Like, no. Just calm. Shh. They rub his ears and go woosah, woosah, woosah.
Well, we got time for some call-ins now. That was pretty much the end of this epic saga of the Iron Warriors. We learned so much about the Primarch, about the 2 vastly different eras for the Iron Warriors. One, they were very bitter and resentful, and the other one, they finally accepted their bitterness and resentfulness and went to vengeance. So good for them. Very cool plot arc there. I the more I read about them, the more I like them, and I learn about these little extra styles of warfare they have, like the orbital bombardment. Doing it that way, I think, is super fun as you just watch the sky rain fire down upon your enemies as they're standing like on some parapets.
Like, I also like feel like they've got to have a ship that like can get into like low orbit on a planet, and it just has basilisks pointed downwards, like strapped to the bottom side of it, just like fields of basilisks, and it just dropping shells.
It just takes carpet bombing to a whole other level.
All right. Well, let's get the call-ins. First up, let's do Fuzz, since you look like you're ready. Give me a little nod. And hey, Fuzz, welcome to the chat. How's it going?
Good. How y'all doing tonight?
Doing good, my man.
Fantastic.
Doing good.
So, have you fallen in love completely? Are you ready to go to Merlin's Miniatures and buy some Iron Warriors?
I was absolutely browsing on Merlin's Miniatures at the beginning of the podcast. Like, I definitely missed some things in the earlier segments because I was looking through their Iron Warriors, their Votan, their Imperial Fists. And yeah, they got some really sweet painted stuff there, like, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, honestly, like, the last 4 episodes have 100% sold me on Iron Warriors and Perturabo as, in my opinion, the coolest of the Traitor Legions.
What do you like so much about them?
So I would say definitely one of the things that's been going around in like the chats and the Discord is that Perturabo is like the blue collar Traitor Primarch. He's the working man's Traitor Primarch.
Okay, yeah.
He's he doesn't have all this flair, like all this like extra flair, all the like with the aspect of him not wanting to obviously not to say fall to chaos, but like to eschew as much of the chaos taint as he can, like with not cutting off mutations, things like that. Now, as we've learned, some of his people like Hansu are very much okay with some weird ass shit. But
Yeah.
in general, it seems like they have stayed the most true to their original selves while still taking that like traitor vengeance. Because like you said in this episode, he switched to Horus' side. Horus still treated him the same way that the Emperor did, so he just said fuck you and he fucked off to do whatever he wanted to do. Like, he might have betrayed the Emperor, but he's still exactly. He might have betrayed the Emperor, but he's still very much, his own Primarch. He's still, his Legion is going to do what it wants to do. Someone in the chat earlier said, he more so than anyone else really holds that, I haven't fallen to chaos. I'm using chaos as a tool, kind of a thing, and it's believable with him.
Agreed. I think that's the thing that people forget is that he really disdains chaos in general, like demons and whatnot. He's just like not about it. So I think that's one of the things that is at least semi-true about him, is that it is truly about him being superior because of himself, not because of what some demon has given him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he would see that like as I would say, like he would see any of that as like beneath him. So is there a demon Primarch model for Perturabo? Because I would be super interested to see what that would look like.
Not yet, but I did just message Mark a one artist interpretation of what he could look like in 40K, and basically think Darth Vader with hazard stripes.
Oh hell yeah! I'm so in.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so in. I
It's
like
like-
yeah.
More rockets on him than you can shake a stick at. Very cool.
Right. Just basically just this tall mass of like metal and fury coming at you.
Uh-huh. Yeah, one cool thing that they do is they use Xenos weaponry and stuff too. So that's kind of a cool thing we haven't really talked too much about, and how you can model that, or just kind of that willingness to do some things that are not just standard,
And it makes sense because he's definitely always been a very like practical person, especially when it comes to warfare. So, if you kill an enemy and they've got a weapon that you can use, that's going to be great for what you want to do. I mean, why would you throw it away? That's just wasteful.
Yeah, you're in that siege warfare and you've run out of ammo for your bolter, and the Xenos weapons are just piling up beside you. 10s, 20, 30 las rifles right beside you, and you're not going to use them as a club? Come on. It's fine.
Right.
It's fine.
There, I mentioned this, I think, on one of the other shows, but like I watched the Warhammer Plus animation Iron Within, and watching them come down on the planet and like actually seeing in that visual medium of how they actually do go to war was really, really cool. Just like this battle line of Iron Warriors with basically like riot shields with like a section cut out where they have their bolter going through, and just as this one unified line taking like 2 steps, annihilating everything in front of them, taking a few more steps with those shields basically interlocked, firing in front of them. Just this wall of metal and hatred and just absolute destruction. Just
That's so cool.
That was very cool.
I really liked that that Warhammer Plus. That was a good one for sure.
Yeah, and also gotta love the hazard stripes. Gotta love that evil Home Depot reverse OSHA.
Evil Home Depot.
Like, and like I like how a lot of people have said it. Like, it is like that, like danger marking. Like this is something that you need to be aware of, or it's going to cut your hand off.
Yeah, like even in nature, man, like, you got poison frogs that are super colorful, or poison snakes, or usually the more colorful, and like, look at me, is like, stay the fuck away from me is what that really means.
Oh, yeah.
So, sorry, just to go back to the evil Home Depot thing. My father-in-law calls Home Depot Home Despot. So I thought
that's
that
so
was
good.
just perfect. I used to work for Home
That's
Depot
so
back
good.
in the day, so I was like, when he said Home Despot, that was beautiful.
I was always more of a Lowe's guy anyways, so.
There you go.
Any other thoughts there, Fuzz, you want to share with us?
Not really. I mean, this has been really cool to learn about. Chaos is probably one of the things that I know the least about in the lore, and so this has been great to learn about. And everyone, get on the Discord, join the Imperial Tithe, hang out with us in the chat. The chat for these live streams is absolute chaos, and it is so much fun.
Yeah, it has been super fun. It's been a fun element for sure. Do we know what Legion is next? It won't be for a couple weeks, but when we get there, who's up next?
Legion Order. If we're going by Legion Order, it would be the White Scars.
Okay,
Oh, cool.
Okay.
Hells yeah,
Cool.
I love the White Scars.
Okay. That's nice. That's
Hell
not
yeah.
perfect timing then to start joining. So
That's
cool. Well, Fuzz, thanks again. And
Thank you for having me on. I
we'll,
appreciate it.
get the next guy.
that little plaque right there. That's a map of the Mongol conquests in the 1200s.
Oh,
Nice.
And I'm like,
okay.
I love Mongolian history and everything like that, and the Mongol conquest and stuff. And like, I have a bunch of White Scars and stuff like sitting on my shelf over there. But yeah, the White Scars are sick.
I won't do you dirty like the Vestroyan. I will invite you to the White Scars.
I was so sad when I saw Vestroy. I was like, the one episode I wanted.
You go to text me, it's like, Marcus blocked your number. And you're like, what happened?
What have I done?
I thought you loved me. Just typing furiously. My big thumbs hitting
Oh,
many
man.
keys.
Remind me to send you a picture of my completed con. I think you'll appreciate it.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
Well, let's get the next person up. Grimaldus, ready, and welcome to the show.
Grimaldus.
Hello, Grimaldus.
How's it going, lads?
Just living,
Oh.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Living the dream.
Fabulous.
So should we have talked more about obliterators, or what? What do we feel like?
So I do love the Obliterators. Awesome unit to have on the tabletop. Lorically, I'm still not 100% into them in the sense of what I know about them. However, anything that you can throw any content that I don't know or any other viewers, listeners, get on it, because 90% of what I know about Warhammer is through you guys and the little bit of books that I've been reading. And, you know, 15, 16 years worth of codex. So
a lot of lies sprinkled in with the odd bit of truth in the codex. Very nice.
Absolutely. That is Lorehammer in a nutshell.
Yeah. Pretty well. The obliterators, there's been a couple things where I'm like super hyped Lorehammer's coming back, and we did like we never got to do assassins. I'm super happy to do that, or more obliterator stuff. Because they have a very cool origin with the named character and how it actually came to be. And you can go down to discussion of, well, is this like a Nurgle thing, or is this like a tech thing? Is this like just warp energy, or yeah, it's fun little.
So I threw that up in the chat earlier. I don't know if I totally subscribe to the idea of it being Nurgle, but like, if he's going to diversify, what a better way how to do it than, start going down the route of technology and how can you corrupt that? And that makes you wonder if even the Flayed One virus could have something to do with Nurgle. I understand the timeline doesn't quite work out, but I do like the idea of it. Whether it be true or not, it's always fun to play it with.
I like the idea of Nurgle diversifying his portfolio.
Well, I mean, why would you not, right? Like, if I'm going to leave a little bit of a pause in case we have to edit this, but if Khorne is going to use the menstrual cycle to have where the blood flows from, why can't Nurgle have viruses for technology? Like, I mean, I wouldn't say it's one and the same, but I mean, we got to let something like that happen.
It's close enough.
Computer virus, real virus.
What a comparable situation. Menstrual cycles and computer viruses.
Now, I believe it was Jack in the chat had also added into this, and I fucking loved it. There's a reason why they're always angry. Well, I mean, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. You fucking throw that in there, they're a little angry. Slip that in there too, man. However, I do want to mention, like I said, I know nothing Horus Heresy. I know very little when it comes to, I want to say anything lore, but each episode for Primarch's Legions, every single one that has come through so far, I'm like, holy fuck, I love this. I need to get more. But in terms for relatability, I can't stress this enough. You guys had said that the last episode, Fuzz reiterated it just before, but the Iron Warriors, they are the blue collar, I wouldn't say lapdogs, but they're the ones that are going to get down and fucking dirty and just do what they have to do. And honestly, that's relatable, and especially because Porter Robbo doesn't subscribe to any of the ruinous powers. It's fucking awesome just to hear him, I'm doing this for my fucking self. This is the way I want to go. I love it.
Good on ya. Yeah, good for you, Porterabo. You deserve it.
Bravo, the blue collar. Yeah.
I think that's like one of the I think that's one of the endearing things about the Iron Warriors and why they're they are as popular as they are. Like you got the drip, you got the Bumblebee Hazard Stripes, you got you got that blue collar, the quote unquote blue collar Traitor Legion vibe going about the relatableness. So that's definitely, except for the whole Demonculaba bull crap. But anyways, but yeah, I think that's definitely something that just
What a
makes
man does in the privacy of his own home, that's between him and his flesh slaves.
I think I'm going to have to interject on that, Gerald. I thought I I don't know how to pronounce it, Demonculi or whatever you were saying. Like
Lava, yeah.
yeah, Demonculaba. I honestly fucking love that. You know, I love a little bit of dirty, nitty gritty, beyond fucked up, and I think they hit every one of those nails on the fucking head, boys.
I will say that like the body horror of like the Demonculaba fits very well with like the early 2000s grimdark. Like that
Well,
era of like
yeah.
grimdarkness, like
Mhm.
they kind of went further with it than, and like if you guys have been keeping up with like miniature games in the last little bit, you've probably heard of Trench Crusade. It's very much body horror kind of stuff. The
Mhm.
Demonculaba fits great with that. Like that's what it made me kind of think of. And I'm like, after like, I'm like, dude, what the fuck? Like this is weird, but it's also very like original idea.
Yes,
Mhm.
yes.
Like
Well,
it's original. You got to give him credit for that at least.
one with a world full of safe places, you know, especially in a fictional world, to be able to have some sort of messed up shit like that, you know, I wouldn't say it makes me feel at home, but it is nice to hear that it's not always, you know, trigger warnings, safe place. Like, throw that shit in. In fact, it was, I can't remember the episode number, but the homunculi episode or homunculi covens. Honestly, that was probably one of my favorite episodes, just how depraved those individuals are. And I kind of had a little touch of that in this. It was great. Absolutely great.
Now let me pose
Interesting.
this
Yeah,
to you
yeah.
though. Like we're talking about the horrible shit that Drukhari do on a daily. Nobody bats an eye with that. But here we are talking about the Demonculaba and how fucking horrible it is that the Iron Warriors are doing this. So it's just like, where is like,
Yeah,
like,
that's just another day in Cormorant. Like,
mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, you're not wrong. Yeah, it's very true. Like, just oh, you think that's bad? You should have seen last Tuesday. Like,
Yeah.
One, like,
Fuck.
even if the Imperium is going to get salty about things like that, like, prior to them falling, like, think about some of the Blood Angels. They have cannibalistic rituals, blood drinkers, a whole bunch of just really messed up things going on. That's what makes the world attractive. Like, it's a fun way. Don't get me wrong, it's not always all about that, but you gotta have opposite ends of the spectrum, and they do a fabulous job at making sure that they hit all those.
When we interviewed Rick Priestley last week, there he talked about Blood Angels and the reason why he gave him the red curse or whatever, the black curse, and
Black
yeah,
Rage
very
and Red.
interesting.
Sorry.
Yeah, Black Rage and Red Thirst, but yeah, very interesting, and like, yeah, just to give them that character, to give them something else, to make it so they're just not relatable to you to some degree.
Especially with the fantasy universe that we're in. You know, for Space Marines, that Blood Angels was the first faction that I got into, Space Marine wise, because they did have that kind of unrelatable, but I don't know about you guys, but that's what drew me in. It's just something that's so far fetched, or could be far fetched. I don't know. It's interesting. However, as far for the next episodes coming through the pipeline, once we kind of get into Jagatai Khan, I think that's going to be extra spicy, just because I love bikes. Like anything that moves fast in 40K, awesome, absolutely awesome. So that'll be definitely exciting thing to kind of hear what's coming through the pipeline.
Yeah, for sure. Well, glad you're excited. And yeah, thanks for calling in. I think we might be out of town, but thanks, Grim.
Thank you, boys. Thanks for the great show, and keep doing your thing. Join the Imperial Tithe. Anyone who hasn't done that, get on it. Jax and I are also training people on 40K Tabletop Simulator. So get on that. If you don't know how to play, we're going to teach you. If you don't know 10th edition, if you don't know Tabletop Sim, get on it. We're going to show you. There is no time constraints. So if it's a matter of time zone, whatever the fuck it is, get on it. We'll toss 15 minutes at it. If that's all you have, we'll at least get you rolling because we're doing a tournament, and we're also, I hear there's some talk in the Warp about some sort of large campaign coming through the pipeline. So get on it, everyone. Do it up.
Cool. Yeah, very exciting. I've been getting a couple messages, like you said, about that large campaign where we might have to do some type of tabletop simulator world map where you guys are battling over. But very cool. Thanks again, Grim. And then there were 3, and we were at the end of the episode. Yeah, I do like the Iron Warriors. Man, like I have a Chaos Warband of Silver Skulls who are essentially Iron Warriors. They're the coolest, man. I really like them. The Obliterators, chef's kiss.
I remember seeing those Obliterators in person. They were very well done, Mark.
Thank you. Yeah, had a lot of fun with them. Cool. Well, do you guys have any closing thoughts about the Iron Warriors you want to get out?
I think we might have one more person in the studio. Double check for me real quick.
Oh, I see. Yep.
Okay.
There does look like there is one more.
We got time for a little Seth. All right. Young Seth, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Hello. I missed a little bit of the episode because I was grabbing dinner, but from what I heard, it was really cool. I have only like a couple points to make. For example, 1, I know GW isn't going to change much from the Primarch because they don't want to do anything drastic, and by that, they don't want to do anything cool, like bring Rogodorn back into Dreadnought, but I think it would be really cool if Perturabo had General Grievous arms. I know he's a Terminator, he's in Terminator armor, but a Primarch with 4 arms who isn't a Gene Stealer would be sick. It would be absolutely rad.
Yeah. Like how bioniced out does Perturabo eventually become? You know, he could get wild with the shape of his body.
Does he use the arms from his circle?
Right. Also, I would not be surprised if one of the arms had Rogodorn's hand on it. Just because he just got Rogodorn's hand. I think it was a great episode. I know you obviously wanted to close out soon, so I don't know. Feedback on the episode. What did I think of it? I couldn't hear anything over the blatant heresy. It was disgusting to my soul, and I spent most of it retching up over the toilet because I couldn't handle hearing the name of Queen Bee Perturabo.
Of all the heresy of this episode, that's what was.
That's what does it for you.
I think Perturabo, he's either going to be a Terminator or he's going to have bumblebee wings and look absolutely fabulous.
Just metallic, like shimmering yellow and black stripes. Amazing.
Yes, absolutely.
Is he fuzzy too? Is he fuzzy?
Absolutely.
He's fuzzy on the top side.
He calls all his sons his worker bees, and all of them hate it, except for Hansu, who likes being acknowledged.
Oh no. Oh no.
Man.
What have I done, Mark?
Oh, no.
You started a new awful meme, but it's perfect.
Oh, I started another one. Can't forget the Evil Home Depot. Mr. Mark, we love Evil Home Depot.
Evil Home Depot,
Evil Home Depot, the home despot.
So I know you got to wrap up the episode, but I have this really cool quote because you brought up the Siege of Terra earlier, and I really, really want to read it. So can I?
Yeah, for sure.
A signal, sir, he begins, one hand pressed to his earpiece. Sidozi checks the display. Gaston is manning Overwatch and deep listening, monitoring Traitor Fleet operations in the hope of intercepting command transmissions. A signal. Very broken. Very faint, Gaston says. Sidozi plugs his osmetics into the station systems and listens for himself. A reedy, scratchy whisper, like the scrape of twigs. He moves Gaston aside and adjusts the filters with expert precision. He listens again. Gaston sees the look on his face. Sadozi increases gain to maximum until the audio backwash is almost deafening. He strains to hear. Repeat, we are 9 hours out. 9 hours out. Deploying now to wide formation assault positions inbound. Terra Control, do you receive? Terra Control, can you respond? Repeat, we are 9 hours out. Terra Control, respond. We need immediate tracking guidance. Light your beacons. We are extending to wide assault formation. Terra, hold your positions. Remain in secure defensive alignment. Hold your positions. That's all you can do. Just hold. Repeat. We are 9 hours out. Terra Control, respond. Acknowledge. Hold your positions and light guidance now. Terra Control, this is Gilliman. Oh shit. Stammers Sadozi. Oh shit. He turns. He starts to belt Icara's name. This is right after the Emperor and Sanguinius teleport up to the Spirit of Vengeance? Spirit of Vengeance, I think. It's one of my favorite quotes.
Vengeful Spirit.
Vengeful Spirit, right.
Cool.
And it's it's really that grim darkness, and I feel like Queen Bee Perturabo really encapsulates that when he isn't too busy being fabulous. Also, Siege of Terra.
Yeah.
Well, Perturabo.
Sorry, Jack. I know you wanted me to do a voice, but my mom told me I was yelling too loud.
Go to bed, Seth. You have school in the morning.
It's only 7:30.
I'm hanging out with my friends.
Mom, I'm on the podcast. I'm famous now.
No. Oh, shut up.
Yeah, I should probably be listening.
Go to your room. I'm already in my room.
Exactly. I'm recording this in my bedroom.
Well, thank you for that.
Thank you for letting me on. Thank you, Gerald.
That's very nice. That gives me a happy little image as I go to bed. Yeah, you can definitely thank those guys because we were moving on. And
me being yelled at from my mom. Thank you so much. All right, I'll get out of your way. But just remember, join the Patreon. Join the Patreon. Join the Discord. Use promo code Lorehammer on Merlin's miniatures for like 30% off or something.
all right, get out of here, you little rapscallion.
All right, see ya.
Oh, he got the trifecta of shoutouts. All right, Seth, adios.
Love it.
The trifecta of shoutouts.
Don't you just love it when our listeners do our advertising for us?
Merlin Miniatures. Yeah, how do you like that? Like, I don't even have to do it for you anymore.
I was just on Merlin Miniatures. I was looking around. They got some cool stuff. They got some old Imperial Guard stuff that I'm...
Do it, man. Use promo code Lorehammer, or even better, use the link in the description below and save yourself some money and help out Lorehammer and help out them. But no, I've been very happy working with them. You know, you don't want to do too many advertisers, but when it's like every episode we do, people are like, I want to go buy minis. So just go to Merlin Miniatures and use promo code Lorehammer. You know what? I won't shout out Listener Lore this time. There is a podcast out there called Lorehammer Listener Lore Podcast, and you could go check it out if you want to. But I think your time's better spent going to Merlin Miniatures and buying Iron Warriors. That's just a personal opinion, but next week could be different.
It's a good opinion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good opinion to have.
When you're done listening about the sci-fantasy of 40K, come on over to the Grimlore podcast and listen to us talk about Warhammer Fantasy. But I can say our next episode is Age of Sigmar focused. So all you Age of Sigmar shills, you're finally getting your time. But I think your time could be better spent going to Merlin Miniatures because they also have Warhammer Fantasy miniatures and AOS miniatures and Old World miniatures. So what are you doing? Go to Merlin Miniatures.
And Lord of the Rings.
And Lord of the Rings. So what are you doing?
Yeah, very nice.
Welcome to Merlin Miniatures, where your miniatures are our favorites. Whichever they may be.
Quite right you are, bro, diddly.
Oh boy.
Oh, man. Cool. And the final shout out is our Patreon members. Honestly, thank you guys so much for joining the Patreon. If you're already a member and you've given money, thanks for keeping the show going. We love doing it. We love chatting 40K and learning all about this crazy grim dark universe. So thank you so much for the last couple of days to Nanmi, Woolen Man, and Jeffrey. So thank you so much. Yeah, so that's that episode. The next coming episodes, we're going down a Chaos God rabbit hole. I think we got 6 episodes planned, maybe 5, where it's going to be, the 4 Chaos Gods, because we've never done that before. But it's finally soon, TM, and it's happening, and we're talking Chaos Gods. And then the 5th episode, we're going to talk about either the Dark King or Malal? Like, which one will be the fifth Chaos God? Ooh, interesting.
That's going to be cool. I'm excited about that. The Dark King's an idea that I really like.
Yeah. Prophecies of olden times coming to fruition. So yeah, very fun couple episodes coming out. So we will see you guys on the next one. And thanks, Brody. Thanks, Gerald.
Thank you.
Thank you.